Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be going over part one of dealing with deep links. Now in part one, we will be able to take our link like this and have it automatically navigate to a new screen in our app. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, stay tuned. And if you would, go ahead and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on part two, where we will be going over how to deal with deep links in push notifications. And with that, let's learn together. So here we are in our brand new Xcode project. Now, one thing we need to do before we get started going over deep links is we actually need something to link from and to. So let's go ahead and let's build out a quick little UI. If you've seen the navigation stack video that we've done earlier, we will essentially just be building a very similar, very small version of that. So let's go ahead and let's, for example, create a struct for a dog. And this struct will conform to identifiable, and we will let a ID equal a UUID, and then we will also give this dog a name, which is a string. There we go. Now that's all we need for that, and so let's go ahead and let's make a list here, and we will just stub it out for now. So let's go ahead and create a list of dogs, and so we will say that this dog of name 1, and then we'll create another dog with a name of 2, another dog with a name of 3, and one more dog with the name of 4. And there we go. And so now we have something for our list to iterate over. So we will say that we will iterate over the dogs, and we will get the dog in, and then we will just display a text with the dog's name, just like that. And there we go. Now let's go ahead and let's also add the word dog here to our dog.name, and that will kind of help us remember where we're at in the project and what we're working on there. There we go. So if you'll remember, we also need to go ahead and add in a navigation link for a value and a label. And so our value will be our dog, and we need to make this conform to hashable if it's going to be our value that we're going to watch. And then we'll make this text right here our label. So let's go ahead and move that there. And there we go. And now we need to give this link somewhere to go. So let's go ahead and let's say that we have a navigation destination for our dog type, and then we will build a quick VStack with an image with a system name of dog.fill, and then that is resizable and scaled fit. And then we will create a text with the dog's name that we're displaying. Now you can see that our content is grayed out over here, and that's because it can't actually do any navigation unless this view is wrapped in a navigation stack. So let's go ahead and help the preview out, and let's let it know that it is a navigation stack. Even though we haven't added that to our code yet, we'll just go ahead, and that way we can just see it in the preview like we would expect it to run in our app. And you can see that if we click on one of these items, that it does in fact navigate. Very cool. Now let's go ahead and let's wrap our content view in a navigation stack. That way, whenever we are ready to start working on the deep links, they are already set up. So let's go back up to the root of the app, just because that's the only two views that we have right now. And let's say that we want to create a navigation stack that goes around our view. And just like that, we've got a navigation stack, but we have no way to programmatically control the path like we did in our navigation stack video. So let's go ahead and just right here in the same file, we can create a observable class that will be our navigation manager, and this navigation manager will have a var with a path that is equal to our navigation path. Just like that. And then we can create our state variable here that is our nav manager, and it equals our navigation manager class that we just created. And let's go ahead and import observable too, and that way our observable, or we'll import observation, and that way our observable class will actually recognize where it's at, where it's coming from. And so then we will use our path, and let's say that this is our nav manager dot path. There we go, just like that. And let's go ahead and run that in the simulator, and that way we can just make sure that our navigation works, and then we'll be able to dive right into the deep link stuff. So as you can see, we've got an app and we are able to navigate back and forth, no problem. Awesome. So now we're ready to start working with setting up our deep links. And now the first step is to tell your app how to deal with deep links. So to do that, we will go back into our project settings, and then we will copy our bundle identifier from here, and then we'll go over to our info tab. And in the info tab, there is a URL types section, and we will create our new URL type. And the identifier is just the bundle identifier that is in our app that we just got done copying. And our URL schemes. Now, if you've watched the video that we did on URLs recently, you'll know that the scheme is just whatever the first part of the URL is. So let's say that we want to call this testing deep links. There we go. And icon you don't actually need to change, and the role you don't actually need to change. And that's all we actually need for setting up our app to listen to deep links. Now, the app won't actually do anything with deep links yet, so let's go ahead and move on to step 2 of dealing with deep links, and we will actually make our app do something whenever it receives one of these links. So going back over to our main app file where we've got our navigation stack set up, we can add an on open URL. Now, this on open URL will listen for our app to be opened through a URL, which is what we just got done setting up in our info tab in our settings page. And whenever the app opens it up, we will go into this modifier and we'll get the URL that actually triggered the app. So for now, let's go ahead and let's just say that we want to print our URL, and then we will display the URL that we got. And we'll go ahead and drop a breakpoint here just so we can stop the app as soon as we actually see it. So now we will run our app. So let's jump out of our app and go over into something like the Reminders app. And what we can do here is we can just add a really easily clickable link. So for example, we can go back to our demo deep link section here, and we could copy our URL scheme and add that to our simulator. And then we can say : / and then we'll say dog/7, for example. And when we click done, you can see that that turns into a deep link. So let's go ahead and click on our deep link. Nice, and as you can see, it opened our app and we've got our URL. So let's see what our URL was. And as you can see, our URL is testing deep links with dog/7. Very cool. Now that by itself isn't very useful, just printing the deep link. So let's actually make our app do something based on that. So we'll come back to our navigation manager. Let's stop our app first. Then we'll go into our navigation manager, and let's go ahead and let's create a function that handles deep links. And we'll let it take a URL, and that will be a URL type. And so let's say whenever we get a URL that we just want to, we'll go in small steps. We'll just say we're going to print our URL here instead of in this call. So now let's try our nav manager.handle deep link.url. And if we rerun our app and take that breakpoint away, all right, and now we should be able to go back to our reminders, click this link again. And as you can see, it did in fact print our deep link from our handle deep link method. Very cool. So again, if you remember our video on dealing with URLs and URL components, we need to first turn this URL break it out into its own components. So let's say that we are going to have a guard let components, and that component will be a URL component from the URL that we're passing in. Otherwise, we're just going to return, and now we will have components that we'll be able to parse out. So for example, this is our scheme, which we don't usually need a whole lot, but something we might need is this first section here, which is actually our host. So if the host is equal to dog, we could do something, or for example, we could even use this as a tab selector and be able to swap back and forth between various tabs. And then this is our path. So typically in a URL, we want to land on a specific page, and then we will navigate to a specific path based on the paths that we get from the URL. And because of that, I actually like using the host parameter here as the tab selector, and I like using whatever path items that we get here as what we're going to do when stepping through the individual paths to get to wherever this deep link is sending us. So let's go ahead and let's say that we are going to get an array of our paths. So let's say we'll let paths equal our components dot path dot split, and we will split on the separator of slash, just like that. And then what we will do is for each path in our paths array is we will take our navigation path up here, and we will say that we want to append a dog with a name of each path. And now you can see that this is complaining that each path is a substring, and that's because of our split here. And so we could also say that we want to map this and get just the actual values that are strings in here, not the ones that are substrings. And that will still give us the exact same thing from our URL video, just makes it a little bit cleaner. And now with that, we should be able to rerun our app. And as you can see, we have dogs 1, 2, 3, and 4, but we don't have dog 7. So when we come back over here and we click on our deep link, we should be pushed to a new dog details page that is dog 7. So let's give that a shot and try it out. Nice. So we see dog 7 here, and we can click back, and then we can navigate back to our list. Very cool. And with that, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And if you leave a comment, just be nice about it. That's all I ask. Thanks. Have a great day.